Welcome back to One Comic Book a Day, where we're covering Superboy issue 21 and the first story, The Giant That Stalked Smallville. Yeah, we're going for a Jack and the Beanstalk type idea. I can't really say it's the concept, other than we have the word stalk. We sometimes see a beanstalk and there being a giant around. It is a story that deals with the fantastical, and though I've been disappointed many a time with the Superman or Superboy story, setting up something that's fantastical and then taking it away, it being some sort of illusion or robot of some sort, it is indeed actually a giant. And though there is a twist that involves the giant, he still is basically a giant for most of this story. So it is Superboy versus the giant. I don't have a problem with that. I just want him to actually deal with the giant. He's fought giants before as Superman. That was actually one of the more interesting moments with him when he was fighting the giants. Is that the one with the volcano? No, the volcano layer with the Ultra Humanites, the one where he actually fought some robot henchmen. But there was definitely a story where a villain had robots and giants outside of their base. And that was at least one of the more interesting things he's kind of fought when the comics were a little more over the top when it was with the villains. We haven't had that in quite a while. I missed that era of Superman. If I was too negative on it, I was wrong. We're in a much more boring era of Superman as we get into the 50s, or as we have entered in the 50s. We need some Silver Age goofiness. I'm just saying that. We need the Silver Age goofiness and the Silver Age bigness. Sort of dancing around the problem because the story doesn't have like much going on for it. I do like the fantastical of it, but once he's sort of stuck doing tasks in the second half, it does lose any momentum it kind of had. I don't know why they're so focused on him doing tasks. Tasks are like his least interesting thing he ever does. Just let him do things and maybe try to figure out how one thing leads to the other instead of it just being one thing then the next thing. But I was enjoying it when it was more fantastical in the first half when he runs into the giant. So yeah, Giant shows up, threatens Smallville. Superboy can easily deal with the giant. It's actually not very hard for him to fight the giant at all, but the giant threatens that he has hundreds of countrymen, other giants, and that would be a problem for Superboy to fight. And a story I would like to see. Unfortunately, it's not this story. This is all just a big lie. He ends up being an actor we met earlier in the story who has unfortunately grown giant. There's also this whole mystery where he was wearing like a lead-lined turban at a thing Superboy was at the beginning of the story, which was all just to hide that he was bald. Didn't want anybody to know, especially Superboy, for some reason. Like, Superboy is known to going to the tabloids and gossip and tell people about how famous celebrities are not actually as good looking as they are. I mean, he probably looks fine bald, but he's embarrassed of it. But he after the threat, he is forced just to do things for the giant until he ends up figuring out something is very wrong. And it's just like he drank a formula. So there's not actually a lot going on in the story, and every few moments where he comes to like having to fight the giant, it's interesting, but we move away from that. I also want to bring up a weird continuity issue, unless I misunderstood something or missed something in the middle of the story. At the beginning of the story, the actor is introduced to us with the name Alan Gale. But by halfway point and the end, he's referred to as John Gale. So they got the name wrong. So eventually they kind of just forgot what his name was and got it consistently wrong, unless there's a later middle part where he's like, actually, my name is John, but I don't recall that moment. And it seems a little too complicated for a children's story. I think they just screwed up the name, like how Stan Lee would sometimes accidentally call Bruce Banner Bob Banner, which led to him being officially Dr. Robert Bruce Banner. Almost said Bannon, like he was the character from Johnny Quest, but Dr. Robert Bruce Banner, even though we just call him Bruce eventually. Which I think really speaks to the A, amount of drugs at the time in comic books, and B, how bad the editor situation was. They actually didn't really have editors at that time, but I'm getting way ahead of myself. We're not even in the 60s yet, and we're not covering a Marvel comic. Yeah, what has the setup of something being big and fantastical utterly fails under the weight of doing the most generic Superboy story you can possibly do with the fantastical. Okay, that is it from Superboy issue 21, The Giant That Stalked Smallville. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications when a new video goes up. I do this Monday through Friday, but Fridays is Bat Friday, where I cover Batman story in either Detective Comics or Batman. And until next time, let's ponder the question, whatever did happen to the boy of tomorrow? And why does no one ever use this giant formula again? I feel like it's going to be very useful, especially if you can like Ant-Man it and be restored to your normal size. Okay, Have a great day.